How do you solve the problem of the now what? Once you complete an adventure, you clear the dungeon, you beat up the evil wizard or what have you. How do you solve the question of now what? Because when I play solo, this is something I regularly deal with, and I'm wondering if you have any solutions.
So I thought about this question for a while, and the best answer I came up with is you do the dishes. Hey, it's James. Back during peak pandemic, when we were all going a little stir crazy, I was on a big quest to make the perfect hash browns. I could spend a whole episode on it, but for now, I'll say make sure after you shred them that you rinse them and fry them in a lot of fat. But I'm here today to dork out about dungeons and designs on Crumbling Keeps, the Dungeon Dorks. You stormed the dungeon. You killed the big bad wizard. What's next? Well, a lot of this comes down to play styles, because a lot of what happens next stems from how you structured your game along the way. Now, there is a really easy answer. If it's satisfying or not depends on what you're looking for out of a game. But simply put, your character could just live happily ever after. To what degree you get into that is up to you. You could just say, and they lived happily ever after, and start rolling up your next PC and start anticipating this new adventure. But sometimes it's nice to write a little prologue, though. They return to the town of their birth, wiser from when they left, and settled down to a farm. No one ever suspected that they were the one that killed the Minotaur. You can go into as much depth with that as you want, but I have a feeling this isn't how you want your game to end. If it was, you probably would have just done that and not left me the voice note. The second easiest answer is give your character some downtime. A few months, years pass. They watch the passage of the seasons. Then, however you generated your first adventure, do it again. They're getting back on the road. Just start over. Old character, new adventure. But what if you wanted something less episodic? What if you wanted the game to just keep going like it tends to when you play in a group? Well, then it's time to do the dishes. Let me explain. It's all about obligation. Given this question, I'm imagining your games have a specific adventure, a specific quest you're trying to achieve, as opposed to sandbox play, where the answer to what's next is always explore more. If you're doing a randomly generated sandbox, there's always more to explore. Every day, we all have obligations. We have to get up, make breakfast, go to work, come home, do the dishes, leave a piece of milk-soaked bread out for the elder demon who lives under our bed and threatens to tickle us in the middle of the night. You know, the normal stuff. What the hell does that have to do with RPGs? It's just that we always have multiple goals, multiple quests going on at any given time. We may have made breakfast, but we still have to do the dishes. A game that does this very well is Ironsworn. It's designed for solo play. You can play it traditionally, you can play it in a group without a GM, but at its heart, I think most people would say it is designed for solo play. It makes sure you're always a bit overwhelmed with too much to do. You collect more obligations over time, making separate tracks for all of them to figure out when they're fulfilled. The game in this way also does a very good job of answering, well, when is the quest over? Even if you don't want to play that system and you want to play another system, 5e, OSE, whatever, I'd suggest reading that book. There's a plethora of stuff to steal from and take into any system you play. And if nothing else, it gives you great ideas on how to structure a solo session. And I imagine how to structure a solo session in the way that you, in particular, are looking for. The gist of it is this. You might have a main quest. You start out the game to storm the dungeon and kill the evil wizard. But along the way, you generate more obligations. The town outside the dungeon, the elder has been kidnapped. On the first level of that dungeon, there's a book that details another dimension full of eldritch horrors who are threatening to break through to our realm. Oh, and there's a captive in the dungeon. She'll pay you a lot of gold if you get her home safe. Basically, you're always dropping more adventure seeds to make sure that you're never truly done. When you finish your quest, you already have 3 other ones lined up. And during the course of those, you'll generate more. I want to pause for a moment and address group play. If you're running a sandbox style campaign, it's a good idea to do the same thing with that. Sandboxes should always be full of adventure seeds and quest hooks. Things that will pull the adventurers in different directions. Rumor tables do a great job of this. Talking to someone at the tavern and they tell you about the rampaging giant a few towns over who is killing all the cattle. Well, great. You have something to do. And you just throw those things all around the world. And so a sandbox, in a sense, is a bunch of little quests that the PCs can decide to get to whenever they get to it. Another game I'd suggest looking into is Wanderer, The Cursed Realm by Sleepy Sasquatch. We have it available on our web store. I'll throw a link in the show notes. It deals with this problem actually very directly. There's an epilogue phase after an adventure where you can increase your reputation and then you decide if you want to continue your adventure or retire. And even if you retire, there are mechanics for your current character to leave a lasting impression on the game world that will affect future games you play. But when you start a new adventure, you generate it much like you did the first one. So it's kind of a mix between that second and third option that I mentioned. But even if your character dies, this game has a way of making it meaningful. Meaningful toward future adventures in that world. Your death still leaves a legacy of a sort. Now, I've never seen a game give your question such a direct answer before, and I can only imagine the designer must have had to ask that question in the past themselves. But I hope that helped. Retire your character, or start a new adventure, or give in to that never-ending mounting obligations of life. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go wash the dishes. Hey, you! Have thoughts on today's episode? Running into issues at your table? Have a burning question you'd like answered? Go to crumblingkeep.com/question or use the link in the show notes. I'd love to answer it on the air. Thanks for listening to the Dungeon Dorks. May all your dice rolls result in interesting situations.